Call this segment State Your Case. We're going to go through a couple different topics of the day, and we're going to state our cases as to why we think the way we do on these topics. Cole, you ready, buddy?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Let's start off with recently it's kind of been floated around that they should lower the rim in women's basketball. Go ahead, man. State your case. You for or against?
I'm against it.
We're gonna get into it. Here we go.
Well, it's like, why lower it? So UConn can put up 140 points and shut another team down to 38 like they did to Mississippi State this past weekend, and they're already saying that ruined the game of women's basketball, that score of 98-38. And they already changed the halves. Women's basketball is now 4 quarters versus guys that they still have the 2 20-minute halves. So I don't think you want to totally separate the two guys and girls hoops with totally different rules.
But they already use a smaller ball. You know, why not a little bit shorter rim? How cool would that be to see women throwing down dunks?
Well, you already see that with Brittany Griner. Brittany Griner, Candace Parker won the dunk contest in McDonald's All-American game.
Yeah, but that's maybe like 2 women out of the whole United States.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, what's the average height of an NBA guy? 6'8", 6'9"?
Probably somewhere around there.
Average height of a college or professional women's basketball player, maybe around 6 foot, 6'1" maybe.
Yeah.
So that that you're talking about an 8-9 inch difference. Why not lower the rim 6 inches? Make sense or no?
It does a little bit, but they're even talking about raising the rim for the NBA guys to 12 feet because these guys are like jumping out of the gym. They're putting half their body through the rim after dunking the ball.
I don't know. I mean, I think it would generate a lot of interest in women's basketball if you say you lowered the rim from 10 feet to 9.4, 9.5, somewhere in that range. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you might have a lot more girls dunking. Might bring some interest into women's basketball. That's all I'm saying.
There's already, I don't want to say not enough interest in women's basketball, but it's not like you see a lot of people looking to dunk the basketball. Yeah, you just
maybe they would if they could.
Yeah, Lisa Leslie, Brittany Griner, Candace Parker that were dunking the ball, and Candace Parker was around that average height. She's not one of the tallest girls. Lisa Leslie, Brittany Griner, both centers in the WNBA. Candace Parker was more of the 6'3", 6'4" range, being able to dunk the ball. I don't see a lot of girls dunking the ball. I get it. Maybe there would be, but for some reason I think you would have to lower it more than just a couple inches.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the WNBA has to do something to try to create some interest in that league. I mean, it really, as far as professional leagues go, there's not a whole lot of interest.
No, there's not. But it's kind of sad at the same time that because there's so much talent in that WNBA. Mm-hmm. You even see some people even threatening to leave to go overseas, like Diana Taurasi, I believe, left for a couple years.
Right.
Eventually came back, and she's dominating in the WNBA now. But you figure that the WNBA and NBA would work together to kind of solidify their product, both women's and men's sides. And I think they're starting to do more of that now with Adam Silver being the commissioner in the NBA. That you want to have a good product on both ends of the court, both sides of the ball, so to speak, so you can get, let's face it, every league nowadays is money-making.
Sure.
You want to have the WNBA and NBA clicking to the point where they're almost competing, stealing fans here and there, and they're different. They're totally different seasons of when these two leagues start.
Let's jump into the next topic here on State Your Case. A topic I think we're going to differ on as well. Transfer restrictions. Now, if you haven't heard this story, there's a running back at Georgia, A.J. Turman, wants to transfer to Miami. Former Georgia coach Mark Richt now coaching down there. And Kirby Smart, the new coach at Georgia, was saying, yeah, you can transfer, but not to Miami and not to an SEC school. My argument on this is these coaches can leave whenever they want. They can transfer, take a new job for millions and millions of dollars, and they're holding these kids hostage with these transfer rules. Why shouldn't a kid be able to transfer from one school to another and still play that next year? I've never understood. The NCAA says, these are amateur athletes, they're not employees. Yet, a regular student can transfer from Temple to Villanova or Florida State, and they can go to school the next year. They don't have to sit out a year of school. Why are these athletes not being able to transfer from one school to another and play the next season?
And I disagree with you on the fact that...
Respectfully or disrespectfully?
I guess a little bit of both. But it's a lot of... If they didn't have this rule put in place, but it's one of those rules that there's a loophole in it. Go to grad school, and if you have another year of eligibility,
yeah, but what if you're a freshman or sophomore?
If you're a freshman and sophomore, when you get recruited, when these players, let's face it, a lot of these players are probably getting 10 to 15 scholarship offers. We can even point to the fact that Bo Melton and Marquise Bell, South Jersey's own, they were hitting 20 scholarship offers.
Sure.
You could be looking at, you narrow down, say, your top 10 schools. You got to do your homework to the fact where, okay, for instance, Michigan, let's say when Lloyd Carr was there, they were on the downward trend of being dominant. They weren't doing that good the past few years. You got to play in the fact that, hey, if I go here, there's a good possibility that Lloyd Carr is probably getting fired. Not with your point of coaches leaving and going to get a better job, because let's face it, Brian Kelly did that with Cincinnati, jumped to Notre Dame, because who doesn't want to coach for Notre Dame when that opportunity arises? But with these kids, they have to do the homework of the possibility. Hey, maybe they go there and the coach gets extended for another couple years. He's there for 4 years.
To me, it makes no rational sense as to why you would hold these kids hostage in terms of their eligibility and transferring. Say you get recruited to go to Michigan by Harbaugh, you show up your sophomore year, he leaves, the coach that comes in, you're not a fit in his system. Now you got to go sit out a year if you want to transfer to another school, or you got to transfer to Division I AA. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The NCAA spends so much time talking about, these kids are amateur athletes, they're not employees. Well, why don't they have the opportunity to transfer and play right away? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and with that, you have to have some sort of rule in place, or let's face it, every student athlete would be doing that to the fact, well, I don't like this coach. I'm getting the heck out of it. Regardless of scheme fit. I get where you're coming from with scheme fit. Okay, maybe they deserve to.
But why shouldn't you be able to transfer if you don't like the coach? Isn't that your... I guess, on one hand, you are getting a scholarship.
Because you're getting a full ride to a school where you don't have to pay a dime. You're going to a top-tier school where, let's face it, it's probably 4 years.
But do you then become sort of an indentured servant, beholden to that scholarship?
Or just jump ship and go down a lower level. If you want to play right away, there's still good programs. You see... let's see, Joe Flacco played at Delaware, starting quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens. There's still some talent in these smaller schools. There's Division III programs, Mount Union, that have NFL players, Cecil Shorts, Jarrell Freeman. There's talent at older, lower levels, but if you are upset, you see the kid Jeff Driscoll. He played at Florida. He jumped ship to Louisiana Tech because he was terrible at Florida. Some of these guys might get there and they might just be terrible. They're a top 5 recruit. They get there, they're terrible. They want to jump ship just for a change of scenery, sort of lick their wounds and start over.
I don't necessarily like the fact that these college coaches are, they have so much hold over a kid who's a grown man. 19, 20, 21 years old, you're an adult. You can vote, you can go in the military, and you can't transfer from LSU to Alabama. I don't know, it doesn't make much sense to me.
Well, and with the SEC, they're just one of those, and I kind of feel the same way, where you could transfer, but don't transfer within your same conference.
Why not? Competitive balance.
It's like the NFL when I hate when players are a free agent, which I get. You're a free agent, you can go wherever. But for instance, former Eagles players going to, with the exception of Deshaun Jackson, because Deshaun Jackson just has a grudge against the Eagles now, but they play with their rivals. I don't know. I'm just one of those guys where I don't want to play with my rival because I was growing up hating you. I was on a team where we were just huge rivals. Like I don't want to go there.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just my competitive nature. If I'm a coach of a college team and my running back wants to transfer to my rival, go ahead. Gives me more incentive to beat the rival.
No, and I agree with that aspect, but
go ahead. If I'm a good enough coach, I'm going to find a guy to replace you.
It's just a matter of there needs to be just still a rule set to where these kids just can't be jumping. Let's face it, if this rule somehow gets changed to where you could transfer without punishment every year, I guarantee you there'll be a lot of kids every year will transfer to different schools.
Sure.
There has to be some sort of regulation to where for those kids, I'm not saying it'll be everybody, but let's face it, they might go from, say, Michigan to USC. That coach gets fired, doesn't like the coach. Jump ship to Notre Dame. That coach takes a job in the NFL. Then it's not working out there, then he jumps ship to Florida State.
Shouldn't he have that right?
There's got to be some sort of regulation to stop that.
All right, state your case. We got fired up there for the first installment. We're going to keep this going every week here. Debate some of the hot topics in sports.